Bulvinaka, and welcome back to another episode of Radio Rambles.
Yeah. Well, today we're joined with a special guest and oh my goodness.
By the way, before that,
so
Radio Rambles, F96 Radio Rambles, this is like the lead up to the celebration of our Aura turning 40.
CFL's turning 40.
Yeah, so during the time where we're going to lead up to the celebration, we're going to be catching up with some OGs and some OBs of FM96. And this episode,
we've got somebody who has led FM96, led some of the people who caused trouble on FM96, and we like to call them content directors.
Yes.
PDs that they like to call them. So like the boss of bosses, you know? So without further ado.
Hi everyone. Hi Tifa, hi Penny.
Hello.
All right, Foto, if you can just introduce yourself and like maybe mention the years that you worked at CFL and your roles that you played at CFL.
Okay, so my name is Foto Ledua. I joined CFL in 1999. I was there for 6 years. So I was with FM96 and then I graduated to Legend FM. And I took over from Lenora on the mid-morning show. But I also hosted Quiet Storm on Sundays. I also had a show of my own called Life or Something Like It. And it was on the weekends I think it was on Saturday. I'll tell you more about that show later because I think that show also got me into trouble a few times. Those were my years at FM96.
All right, one thing I'm like really curious about is what was it like being the team leader for like the group of radio announcers that were, just starting to push the line, like, really hover over the edge between, is this very necessary to do, or please don't ever do that again in the public eye?
Give me high blood pressure. The thing was, so Charles Taylor was our programs director,
right.
And he was hard on me. I think out of the team, he was the hardest on me. So when I joined FM96, Takini was on breakfast, then it was Lenora on mid-morning, then it was Semi Francis on drive, Neil Foon was on the Tonight Show, and then it was either Franco Cave or Kali on the mid-dawn show. Then when we came on, it was Mervyn and Mace, and then it was me, and then it was Semi for a while, and then Anna Narayan, and then it was Neil. And then of course the others joined in, the Glenn Vavaitamanas and the Tavain Bale and all Alex Albon, all these gang. So because Charles was hard on me, I had to be hard on them. I had to like flex my muscles a little bit there.
Right.
And those gang were cheeky. They were a cheeky bunch, man.
I bet.
But they were a fun group. And also like sometimes when you're in that role, you kind of have to draw the line on, whether they're your friends.
Yeah.
And also, you also have to answer to your own boss, right? And they would bully me sometimes. Sometimes I would jump on that, naughty bandwagon.
Right.
Charles Taylor always had his eye on us. So I had to be the mean one sometimes.
So, coming through radio, what do you think if you guys came through the social media era or just the internet era? What would we be looking at? What kind of calamities?
Oh boy. When I think about it, because when I joined radio, social media kind of just started, right? So we only had MySpace and something called Friendster. And it was very limited. Like, you couldn't do what you do now on social media. I think the station would have had their license revoked if we had social media back then. Because we were a pretty crazy bunch,
Right.
Not just on air, but also off air. Those outside broadcasts, you guys have been on OBs, you know what it's like.
Yep.
But I think, you guys are lucky now because you have all that available to you. We pretty much had to read magazines. We had to talk to people, get stories from your neighbors or your friends. And that's how we show prepped. Whereas now you have it at your fingertips. I mean, just before this, Tifa was looking for his questions on his phone.
Wow.
He used to write with pen and paper, brother.
Not to call you out. I love it. Okay, so just the other day, Alex was just reminiscing about the good old days when you were the PD for F96, and he mentioned that you were basically the mother of FM96. Why do you think he said that you were the mother of FM96 at one point?
I think as while I would be, I was strict on them, I also protected them.
Right.
So if they wouldn't show up to their shift because they were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, I would protect them. I would get someone else to cover for them, also would feed people.
Right.
And just, made sure that they would show up to OBs on time, made sure they were dressed, neatly. We used to have something, I don't know if you guys have it now, but back then, the high commissions would take turns in hosting media. So it was radio, TV, print. And it was once a month, and it was at Traps Bar, and they would pretty much just open bar, they would have a couple of kegs, and all the media gang would go down. And so, of course, back then we were young, and would all go and drink, but I would also make sure that, everybody got home.
Right.
And, no one was, in a ditch somewhere, and they, made sure they showed up to their shift the next day. So, yeah, I guess probably that. And also, as you would have heard from Michelle and Merv, there were a couple of relationships that started at FM96.
That blossomed.
Yeah, and so I would, I guess, be, the mediator sometimes when there were fights.
Oh, okay.
When was you're the mother of the group, you're always catering to them. What's enough for you? Enough is enough, and you have to put your foot down, because you said, being the leader, sometimes you have to be hard on them, and sometimes you get bullied. So what was enough for you? What was your...
When I'd be the one who'd have to cover for them, pick up their shift.
Yeah.
That then it just gets to a point where, okay, I also want my weekends.
Right.
And I think at times they would kind of take advantage of the fact that I would do that, so I can hear Alex's voice, shh, please, that kind of thing. So yeah, it just got to a point where I'd be like, okay, that's enough.
Right.
If you're going to show up again drunk or, not turn up for your shift, you deal with Charles.
Right.
We were chatting with Mervin and Nace, if we say so, and Mervs were saying, he reminisced about the time where, bro, we could never get away with anything because Foto was right there with us.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking to myself, how wild were these kids, or how wild were these 20, 30-year-olds?
Because I remember we had asked them, what's something that you did back then that nobody else knows about now that you would have probably gotten into trouble for? And they were like, Foto would not let us get away with anything.
There were so many things that we did, and I'm sure you guys are the same. We were also a very tight-knit family.
Yeah.
So while we all worked together, we also did things outside of working hours. We did things together on the weekend, and even when you weren't working, and part of the team went on the road show or did an OB, everybody would then meet up afterwards, right? So you always were together, and there were times when they would make plans without me.
Oh.
But I would find out, and then I would show up.
I love that. Which makes me curious though, did you ever go and party with them at Nace's flat?
All the time.
Okay.
Oh, at Nace's place?
Yeah.
At Nace's house, sometimes. But I think I spent more time at Glenn and Mervin's flat.
Right.
Yeah.
We've only heard rumors of that flat.
Yeah, no.
I feel like we're going to get a little bit naughty now, because what's one thing that you did? You're the leader and all. What's one thing you did that no one else knows about, till this day? Like a little cheeky move that you whack there and all these little minions are just watching you.
Man, no, actually no one knows about this, but they're gonna find out now.
Right.
Oh,
yes.
God.
I love this.
I don't know. So, you know how you'd pre-record your shows, right?
Yes.
I was actually supposed to do a mid-dawn show, and I went on one of those OBs, the Courts OBs to the West with, Phil and the crew. And of course, after the I can't believe I'm telling you this. And Charles, I'm now in my 40s, so you can't kill me.
Right.
But I showed up to work drunk off my face. I recorded my show, thought I did a great job, went home. The next day I came and I checked to make sure that I actually had, every talk segment. I listened to it. You could not understand a single word I said. Could not understand it. I waited. No one pulled me up on it. I deleted all of them. No record whatsoever.
Oh my
But
god.
now that I'm in my 40s and I won't get into trouble for it, I can tell you that.
Was it like?
So no one knew about that.
Oh, did you say FM96 nicely or Legend FM?
I love it. Oh my
You're my
gosh.
hero.
And I think it was after that where I thought, okay, no, that's enough. Like we can't do this anymore. Like we gotta grow up.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. Okay, I just okay, let's just get serious for a bit. We had asked Mervin this question, but that was like from his point of view. From your point of view though, what was it like working in the media during the 2000 coup?
Oh boy. Yeah, it changes your perspective on a lot of things, but it also makes you appreciate the media in Fiji, right? And being part of that. So I was on air when it all went down on May 19. And I just remember, I can't remember whether it was Anand or Viri that walked in the studio and said, play the breaking news jingle. And that was when I found out, what went down in Parliament.
Right.
And because where the FM96 studio was then, we could look out onto the main street, right? So we're sitting there and we could see people running up with shopping trolleys filled with like boxes and TVs and whatever, because there was looting and burning going on in town.
Right.
And everyone that was on shift that mid-morning were told to pull. So nobody else was to come in to work after that. William just gave the directive, like everybody stay home, stay away from town. So we had to pull a shift right through. And that night was when rebel soldiers stormed Fiji TV. Because there wasn't an interview on Fiji TV. They stormed Fiji TV, they destroyed equipment, and then from Fiji TV, they went to FBC. And I just remember that my partner at the time, who was the head of production at CFL, was at Fiji TV when it happened. And they ran for their lives together with Fernando Lobendan to Holiday Inn to, seek refuge. And FM4 was actually out, trying to get news on everything that was happening.
Right.
And they were shot at outside FBC. So they came up to the station and I was on the air. Angie was on Naftarang. Marianne was on VTFM, and in news was Anand Vijendra Lal, who is now, I think he's an MP in the opposition, and Penichamin Siru. Ashwin, Charles Taylor, we were all at the station. And we just thought, oh my gosh, they're attacking all media outlets. Like the next one is going to be us. So, of course, we went on the RT and we told William Parkinson, this is what's happening and we're going to leave. And you know what William told us? Well, I tell you, it just deflated me immediately. Nobody abandons their station. This is your duty to the nation.
Oh my gosh.
So we all had to stay back. And, in hindsight, like a few weeks after that happened, it was important that we did, right? Like we couldn't leave. We had to wait for updates, but none was coming in. And we just planned that night, we're going to turn all the lights off and just make it look like there's no one in the station. And we even discussed, what's going to happen if they storm CFL? But thankfully, nothing happened. We stayed like that till the morning. And then it was funny because the next day, my Kelly Randua, who was on VTFM, he hadn't heard because he was in the village. He didn't know, that they weren't supposed to come to work. And he gets off this van and he's got a hoodie on and he runs towards the front door. And we're just like, oh my God, we're going to die. But he was coming for his shift.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then every day after that, there was breaking news. Everybody worked as a team, just to make sure that, we got the news out to the nation. We had a couple of journalists who were held at gunpoint. Yeah. So while there was a lot of traumatic things happening, we in the media saw a lot of things firsthand that the general public didn't know about. And it was really, it also made me realize how important our job is and the role that we play, So yeah, while it was traumatic, it's one experience that I will never forget.
I think when we get down to listening to all the talanoas that that we were having right now, do you ever sit down and be like, I miss my days on FM96 or miss my days, especially FM96 because Legend is very chill. They're a cool bunch of kids. Do you ever sit down and think to yourself, yeah, I could go for another round on FM96?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I liked being on air. I really enjoyed being on air. I think with FM96, because of the way I was also brought up, while I was brought up in a very modern family, my father was also very conservative to an extent. And so when we were always told to like push the boundary, I used to think to myself, man, what is my nay and my nana and my momo going to think when they hear this? Because they would listen to the station as well. And so, yeah, there was some discomfort in some of the things that I was encouraged to talk about or to do. And I'm sure you guys, we had Maury Shanahan, who used to come in every year, twice a year, and they would come and talk to us. And he used to always tell me, like, don't be safe. Push that boundary a little. Oh, the one time I actually listened to him and pushed the boundary, I wanted to die. I wanted to resign. I told Charles, that's it, I'm never coming back to work. Because I actually got there was some backlash. And one in particular that I still remember, I won't say his name, but I see his face and I just think, oh God, who wrote in? And then he called William Parkinson. And then I kind of like went back into my safety zone. So when they told me to move to Legend, I was like, oh, thank you. I'm going. But it's fun. I mean, FM96, like some of my were fun years. Yeah.
What would you...
And funnily enough, so I live in Vanuatu now.
Right.
And I worked in hospitality for a while, and then I joined media. And the radio station that I managed here was Buzz FM on 96, Buzz 96 FM.
Right. Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Well, how do you feel looking at how different working in the media is, or like working in FM96 is now compared to when you guys were working here?
It's the face of radio.
Yeah, like just the face of radio. Like when you look at it, what goes on through your mind?
Well, you guys have social media now, right? So everyone, your shows are live. Like for those of you that stream your shows live, or that's recorded and then put on your FM96 page. We didn't have that. And so a lot of what we did had to rely on our voice, and also had to rely on how animated you are, right? To try and, put out a point or make a story funny, or and also if there's something that you do on air, or if there's like, say, example for Mervyn and Nesa, when they did all their all their skits or all their crazy things that they used to do, once it's done, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? Like no one gets to see it or rewatch it or share it.
Right.
Whereas with radio nowadays, you also have social media. And so that kind of lives on forever, really. And people record, people screenshot. And so I think in that sense, while you have a lot of advantages for us,
right,
it was safe that we didn't have that, because there's there's no recording.
True.
There's no proof.
A lot of things are gone in the wind now.
Like the VT that you did. You know what? Thank you so much for just giving us some time. And we've heard from Joey. She was just telling us, we were doing a little bit of research. And she's like, yeah, man, when I used to walk down the hall and I saw Foto coming my way, I just walk the other way. And I'm like, dude, you're scary yourself. How can this woman and then we were looking at the pictures, we're looking at you like you're so happy and whatnot. So was there a point where you just felt like I'm gonna be on my own and whatnot? Because I felt like when she was telling us that story, that you were like the Wicked Witch of the West or something like that. So I was kind of getting scared too.
Man, you make me sound like an evil woman. No, I think that's just how I was, right? I remember even my sister Ateva, who was working at CFL before me, she would even tell me, oh man, I went to have lunch with so-and-so, and he said that you're scary. I'm like, my God, this person has never even met me. I'm the nicest person that you could know.
The nicest, obviously. Man, but thank you so much, Foto, for, just sharing your stories with us. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you at the 40th birthday celebrations. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
If you can just end this video with an FM96 intro that you would do on the mid-morning show.
Oh God.
I know it's
I don't even remember what I used to say. But although I do remember we had to always, Charles always told us, station ID, your name, your full name, first name and surname, and the time,
Right.
And so it was constantly, good morning, FM96 mid-morning show, it's 10:10, I'm Foto Ledua. And it was constant. And the thing that I find funny is, even till now, I think the most recent was probably 2 years ago.
Right.
I met someone here in Vanuatu, and I knew that they were from Fiji. And so, of course, I went up and I said, went and said hello. And then they introduced themselves. And I said, oh, I'm Foto. And she looked at me and she goes, Foto Ledua. That kind of thing. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, this thing is just following me everywhere. But like it became like top of mind for people, right? Like, you know, when people think of Milfoon, you're like, it's Milfoon, you know, or Semi, it's like Semi Francis. And so oh, and the other thing I also wanted to like just mention, you know, because now I'm a parent, and so I feel like I've got to impart some, you know, advice.
Yes,
please.
With FM96, right? Like, grow your network, like make as many connections as you can, because you have that, right? Like, you meet so many people every day, and also there's life outside of the station.
Right.
And the reason I say that is it's also good for your show prep, right? Like, a lot of times people come to their shift and then they just sit around in the station and then they hang out with the person that's doing the next shift, and then they wait until like yellow bucket time. And then that's all they do, right? But like, you know, get out there, meet people, talk to your neighbors, you know, find out what your audience is into. It makes you a better radio host, personality, and you get some great connections. Like, CFL was a great foundation for me. It's opened massive opportunities for me. I've got great connections who are now really good friends of mine. So yeah, I love CFL. You know, thank you, William. Thank you, Charles. Dude, you know, that was a big thing when William would walk into the studio and comment on what you said on air, and said something really nice about it. And just be like, oh my God, because you know he's listening, right?
Exactly.
But you're gonna like think like, okay, did that make an impact or not? But when he'd walk in and tell you, you're like,
yeah, doesn't show.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, and thank you so much for watching us catch up with Foto Ledua of FM96, the mid-morning show. And let us know in the comment section if you want us to chat up somebody specific in the OG/OB era. And
but from us to you, keep shining.
Wow.
I don't know. I just said it.